Greetings, this is Mr. Bureau. This is just a welcome introduction to Scratch and how Scratch works. So let's get started on the basic elements of Scratch. Over here on the right hand side, this is our stage area where our sprites are located. Our sprites are the characters that are used inside the game to manipulate, play around with, have some fun. Now, to create a sprite or add a sprite to your stage, you would click on the blue button down here in the sprite section. So you have, I could choose a sprite or I could search one out. I can upload sprites. It's up to you what you want to do. If you're going to choose a sprite, you click here. It brings up all the different sprites that are available. They're broken down by categories as well. If you know exactly what you're looking for, you can search for it. You can go everything all the way down to letters down here, which they have available if you want to use them. Okay, so that's your sprites. Like I said, you can import and use your own sprites if you want to. Your backdrop or your stage are right here. It's a very slim box that's over here, but this is your backdrop or your stage, what goes behind your sprites. So if you want to give a different scenario to each of your characters or your sprites on the stage, this is where you do it. You could also import images as well. You simply click here and upload. Okay, so that takes care of your sprite and your stage. These are the guys that will be coded. Very little coding is done on your stage unless you are doing specific tasks like moving it or something like that. But for right now, just as a general term, we won't use it. Your most code will be done here. This is where all the coding gets put in to make this guy do something. Where's the code? It's all over here. These are coding blocks. This is what we use to make the cat move. You have different blocks. Each one is categorized by a color. If you want to make some kind of motion or movement, you would use the blue block. It's a motion. If I want him to move specific steps, I can move him. Okay. If I want him to appear to say or do something, I could use this. I can add a sound like this. There's what we have called events. These are command level project level on-click events. The on-click, when the flag is clicked, the program starts. If you wanted to start the program using a key space or a key press on your keyboard, you could use that. You could use it when it's on, when the sprite is clicked, you could start the game. You could use backdrops. These are now getting into other ones. You have other controls. Now we're into controls. These are your if then else statements, wait untils, and a repeat and a forever. Okay, so you could do a wait command. This is a control. You want him to wait for X amount of time. You can make him repeat doing something. I could put all of this into one block, in a repeat block, to have him do it X amount of times. I could make him go forever, meaning it's going to continue until the game stops. I could do an if then conditional, meaning if this takes place, then do that. If it doesn't take place, if that action doesn't take place, then it wouldn't happen. You could use an if then else, setting two conditions, saying if this happens, then do this, otherwise do that. That's the else. You have your wait until, which we set in. You can see wait until something happens, and then a repeat until something happens. Okay, those are again conditional statements. So you could say repeat it X amount of times until this doesn't happen anymore. We go to controls. Like I said, we're in sensing. These are related to touching or movements on the board that interact with either shapes, colors, or something along those. You go down to operators. This is our mathematical side of it. We could say if this happens with this, then do this. Now what's neat is these green operators fit inside your wait untils, your repeats, your if thens. You can fill these either with character movements or mathematical points. So you could put it against a score or something like that if you need to. Variables. You can create your own variables here. So if something isn't on there that you'd like to see, you could create it. You create my variable. You make a variable, give it a name, okay, and then you add it in here. So if you wanted to make a variable and call it score, you could make a variable, call it score, then you could start setting your variable in here and say set my variable to 0. If you wanted to add scores, you can say change my variable by 1. If it's a life connector, you could do it the opposite way. So that's variables. My blocks, if you want to create a block, you could create a block. Okay, blocks are these elements here. We'll get into that later. Last, we have these elements as an extension. If you're going to start experimenting outside the realm, we have Makey boards, music, playing a keyboard, stuff like that. You could use translators. There's text to speech. There's video sensing. If you have a camera on you, okay, and all these other elements, all we'd have to do is click on it and add it, and you'd be able to use those elements down here. Now, as you notice, we have 3 tabs up here: code, costumes, and sound. Simple and easy. Code is the code we just added. Okay. Now, if you notice up here, I have no way to start the program. So I would need an event to make sure that that happens. Me personally, I normally use an on-clicked event called when the flag is clicked. So when this guy's clicked, all of this is going to happen. Okay. And there you go. Now, if I'm going to use multiple characters, that's these guys here, or costumes, which this is. That's what they call them. So my sprite has multiple costumes that I can use. So in his costume, this is where I can change, modify, create my own, update, whatever. Paint them like this. I just painted his head, and as you see, he automatically updates inside the stage. Now, I'm going to have to make the code change his costume. So that would be up here in looks. And then if I find it, switch costumes here, and I could choose which one I want to use. Okay, so in this case, I'm just going to do that. So if I did it, boom, there he goes. He said hello, he's going to pee the meow, and now he changes, as you see. Okay, and there we have it. That takes care of the costumes. You could add sounds. They have sounds available for you, or you can create your own sounds. Okay, so as of right now, I have a meow sound. Up on top, this is our file menu. When you first log in, your stuff will be in your folder right here, next to your username. This is where your stuff will show up. If you have any project that you've worked on, they will show up inside here. Okay. If you want to create a new project, you go here. Okay. If you're going to just create, you could go here and just create, and here you're back. If we need to change the language, here are all the languages that work with Scratch. If we're going to save it and download it and turn it in, you would click on File and Save to your computer. It's going to create the SB3 file, which is what we're looking for, and then add it to Canvas when it's ready to get turned in. Okay? If you're looking for tutorials, Scratch is overloaded with tutorials on how to do something simple. If you're really struggling, come back here, click on the tutorial, Getting Started. Using any of these, you're going to animate your name. Okay? So after you get done creating your sprite, I want you to try animating your name. That's this one. Okay? And it's going to walk you through the steps on how to animate your name. If you have any questions, ask your partner.